always said, once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
Giants fans, thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Only a Giant. Here to talk about Sunday Night Football, New York Giants, Cincinnati Bengals, a kind of a must-win game for the Giants. I think I said this on the preview pod where it really felt like kind of two teams on a collision path here. The Cincinnati Bengals needing a win desperately to get back to 2-4 and kind of right their season. The Giants Sunday Night Football primetime game woes. Is this something where we can actually get to 3-3 and maybe make some changes with how people see the Giants and how people see Daniel Jones and clearly the Giants lost, couldn't do it. 17-7 defeat. Giants fall to 2-4 in a game that really kind of a tough loss in the sense that this was a masterful performance by the defense and we couldn't take advantage of it, which is really kind of sad. Obviously, a lot to unpack here, and we'll kind of get into the defense here in a little bit. But I guess let's just jump right into kind of the elephant in the room, the monkey in the room, the giant in the room, I guess if you will, and that's Daniel Jones. For me personally, I'm not a Daniel Jones hater. I'm not a Daniel Jones lover either. I was um, okay with a pick, I guess, at the time. Okay might not be the right word. I was shocked a little bit that it was at 6, but wasn't surprised that we took a quarterback. And I had heard a lot that we had liked him, but I think it's officially time to say that we're done with Daniel Jones. I think here in the next coming weeks, the move needs to be made to another quarterback. We'll kind of get into that in a little bit. Uh, I think we're there. I think we're officially there, and it's kind of a sad time uh, to be a Giants fan because of that. It's a season where had we won that game 3-3, we probably feel quite a bit different. But the same glaring issues were still there or are still there, and that's kind of masked by the fact that we beat the Seahawks and we beat the Cleveland Browns, two teams that really didn't want to adjust to what Daniel Jones does good, and they thought their defenses were good enough. And I'll into that in a minute, but it's time, guys. He throws with very little anticipation. That's something that you need in the NFL. I see that every day from college quarterbacks when I'm watching college football games. You see it from Jaden Daniels. You see it from Drake May. You see it with a lot of different quarterbacks, and that's something that is just kind of a really basic concept. This isn't like earth-shattering news that you need to throw with anticipation. You need to throw people open, stuff of that nature. Uh, it's a well-known thing, and it's just something that Daniel Jones cannot do. It's one of his many flaws, but one of the reasons that I feel so strongly about this one specifically is even look at the Dallas game. Perfect example of not throwing with anticipation. I was at that game watching it with my two buddies, Ryan and Anthony, and multiple times over and over again, I'm leaning over to Ryan, and Ryan's leaning over to me, being like, dude, that throw is 2 seconds too late. Like it's absurd. And a key example of this is multiple times with that game specifically, the game where Malik Neighbors had his concussion. I'm not saying that that's what led to the concussion. That's not the case here, but there were so many times when Daniel Jones was a second or 2 seconds late getting the ball to Malik Neighbors, and rather than Malik Neighbors having a chance to catch the ball, turn upfield, and try to make a play, he's getting popped immediately. So many times he got up slow, looked like he may have been hurt, body taking a beating, and that's on Daniel Jones. Malik Neighbors has been somebody that's been really good with after the catch stuff, and we have not been able to see that this year because he's just not giving him a chance to do it, and it's kind of pathetic, to be honest with you, and it's an issue. It's an issue, and we're into going into year 7, I believe, here, and I think beginning of the year I was pretty low on what I expected out of him, and then he kind of builds you up and then brings you back down, and builds you up and brings you back down. But it's time, guys. It's time, and one thing I wanted to point out, in this is, I don't know how accurate this is, I guess, but it's just eye test stuff here where I feel like defenses that like game plan for Daniel Jones. So for example, the Cleveland Browns did not game plan for him. I think they just thought their defense was good enough, and they would be able to, keep him off the field. He can still throw the ball. He can still deliver accurate balls. But they didn't game plan for him at all. The Seahawks, another team, defense is good enough. They didn't really game plan for him. But when you have teams like Dallas, teams like Minnesota knew before they even stepped on the field that Daniel Jones was going to have no chance in that game. Last night, Cincinnati Bengals played off coverage a lot and just drove on the ball. Teams that know what they're doing defensively, and maybe it's even teams that like defensively aren't great, but they know how to put a game plan and they know how to adjust to the quarterback that they're playing, and that's kind of what happened. Cincinnati Bengals defense shut us down. It was honestly pathetic. I've never seen a passing game look so bad. Um, enough of that. I mean, obviously we kind of already know about all of that. The other side of the Daniel Jones stuff, and this is kind of obvious to Giants fans. We all kind of know this, and probably obvious to other teams and other fans. We can't win in primetime. 1-14 in primetime games. 0-8 in home primetime games for Daniel Jones. 0 passing touchdowns in 657 days. That's almost 2 years, guys. That's crazy. According to Doug Analytics last night, Daniel Jones had a career low of 2.2 air yards per throw. I don't know what the average is on that, but that's extremely, extremely low. End of the day, and this is kind of something that I had, kind of responded to Dan Schneider on. My personal opinion here is Daniel Jones can be a decent quarterback in an elite offense, in Mike McDaniel offense, and San Francisco, and a team that really knows how to scheme up an offense and get guys open. And I think Brian Dable can do that, but I just don't think this is an elite offense. So Daniel Jones can be a decent quarterback in an elite offense, a good game manager, I guess, if you will, Andy Reid, that type of stuff. But he cannot be a good quarterback, even an average quarterback on a bad offense or just okay offense. Getting Malik Neighbors back will certainly help, but that's kind of my take with Daniel Jones at this point. I'm over it. I'm done. I'm sure a lot of other people are there. And the people that like Daniel Jones, I don't dislike Daniel Jones. I just he's not the quarterback of the New York Giants at this point. He's done. We need to move on. It's unfortunate you don't want to kick the can down for another year, but it's time, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I have a kind of a funny take here. We'll get to here in a little bit. Let's jump over to stats though, and this is kind of some of the stuff I'm talking about. So if you look at individual, let's look at. Let me see here. We'll look at individuals. So Joe Burrow finished 19 of 28 for 208 yards, got sacked 4 times. Still had a pretty good game for him. Their running game, we knew they weren't going to run a lot. Chase Brown, 10 carries, 53 yards with a touchdown. Zach Moss, 6 for 13, really shut him down. The big one, Joe Burrow, 4 carries for 55 yards, and one of those runs was that 47-yard touchdown run. Their receptions, 7 for 77 for T. Jamar Chase, 5 for 72. Andre Yusuvas, 2 for 36. Chase Brown, 2 for 11. Tight end, Eric All, 2 for 10. So really like nothing there. For the Giants, Daniel Jones, 22 for 41, 205 yards with a touchdown, sacked twice. Daniel Jones running the ball, 11 carries, 56 yards. Tyrone Tracy, 17 for 50 with a touchdown. Tyrone Tracy's numbers, as far as the yards per carry, not great, 2.9, but that was the product of the defense. I think they got 2 of the big guys back, BJ Hill and one other guy back as well. That really kind of helped stuff the run up the middle, which certainly hurt the Giants. Reception wise for the Giants, 6 for 57 for Slayton, 6 for 57 for Tyrone Tracy, which is big. 5 for 50 for Wandell, 3 for 30 for Theo, and Jalen Hyatt, 1 for 6. Isaiah Hodgins, 1 for 5. Defensively, obviously, that's kind of the story of this game, and we'll kind of get back to that here in a minute. But Brian Burns played lights out, had a sack. Azeez Ojulari had 2 sacks. I feel like he should have had 4, to be completely honest with you. Dexter Lawrence had a sack. Now he has 7 sacks. He's a half sack away from leading the NFL in sacks. But from the defensive tackle position, he is leading the NFL in sacks. So really some kind of cool things there. Offensively, and this is 2 things I really kind of wanted to get to. Offensive line, according to Alex Wilson, Giants, Andrew Thomas gave up 2 sacks, 3 pressures, is playing with a bum ankle. It sounds like he's getting an MRI today, so hopefully we'll hear something. John Runyon gave up 2 pressures, no sacks. John Michael Schmitz kind of got beat up a lot in the middle, gave up 5 pressures, but no sacks. But you could feel the presence there. BJ Hill, for some reason, was just kind of dominating him. A little concerning there, but no sacks. Uh, Greg Van Roten, 1 pressure, and Jermaine Luminar, 1 pressure. Kind of a bad game for the Giants offensive line this year. But if you look at it kind of compared to what we've seen in the past, the last couple of years, a disaster game by this offensive line compared to like last year. Last year it would have been 8 sacks, 9 sacks, 19 pressures. It would have been way, way different. The other thing I wanted to get to, and this is kind of the team stat side of it, where I kind of felt like the Giants, kind of amazing that they actually even lost this game. Giants against the Bengals, first downs, 24 first downs compared to 13 by the Bengals. Time of possession, 34 minutes for the Giants, 25 minutes for the Bengals. More total plays, 72 total plays to 54. 5 for 15 on third down compared to the Bengals, 4 for 11. 3 for 5 on fourth down. Total yards, Giants had the advantage. Fewer penalties, granted 1 really big penalty on that Darius Slayton catch and run for 50 plus yards on Andrew Thomas. Granted, it was an RPO. You can't really blame him for that. It just kind of timing just wasn't quite synced up there, I think. And then 4 sacks taken by the Bengals and only 2 for the Giants. Now that's from Doug Rush on Twitter, so I want to give him a credit for that as well. So let's just jump over, I guess, to the offense. And obviously, as a whole, the offense wasn't great. Offensive line struggled a little bit. Once again, compared to last year's struggles, this year's struggles, whole new world there. But the offense was still able to operate. Daniel Jones had a little bit of pressure, but he was able to run the ball effectively, I would say. And the passing game just really wasn't there. It just seemed like they were never in sync, I guess, if you will, and really just pathetic. Late throws, a little bit inaccurate throws. One of those fourth down plays where Slayton was open right away and just get him the ball. And instead, you wait another second. You let DJ Turner get over there to kind of swat the ball out. Wendell Robinson open on another one. Darius Slayton open in the flat on another one. Just not reading the field right, not going through his progressions well. Really felt like, just based off the eye test, that, once again, I'm not watching all 22 film. It's not out yet. Not trying to go through Twitter and comb everyone's thoughts on this, but it really felt like way worse than the actual score or the actual stats, I guess, if you will, for Daniel Jones. Just did not look in command on this offense. Wasn't able to connect on deep balls. Just generally looked really bad. And that's where we're at. Run game, Daniel Jones obviously carried the ball a decent amount and made some plays with his legs. But guys, is that what you want? Is that really what we want with this offense? Do you want Daniel Jones carrying the ball 11 times for 50 yards, taking big hits? That's not sustainable in the NFL. It really isn't. Cam Newton did it. He's kind of a shell of himself now, I think. He did it in the NFL, but that was kind of him. He wasn't a very accurate passer. That was a specific offense. Lamar obviously carries the ball probably too much as well, but he does a great job at not taking these huge hits. Josh Allen, obviously they talked about him during the broadcast, and he's not Josh Allen. I mean, there's just no confusion with that, really. So it's something that really isn't sustainable. And I'm not even talking about like the injury clause side of it. And that's a huge part of it too. Like, Daniel Jones cannot be carrying the ball 11 times, taking these huge hits. I'm okay with a little bit. I'm okay with some RPO stuff here and there. See if they're gonna bite, and if they're biting on the running back, getting the ball, take it outside, see what happens. Scramble a little bit on some design pass plays where there just isn't anybody open. I understand that stuff, but we cannot have him running the ball 11, 12, 13 times a game. That is not sustainable. It's not something that can happen in the NFL. What else? I guess the other big part for me, and we won't even get in. Well, let's stick with the running game for a second. I think the big thing I'm taking away from this game as well, game 2 for Tyrone Tracy, obviously the first half didn't really work out how we wanted it to, but we didn't really stick with the run. And that's kind of something that I thought we should have done a little bit more, stick with the run and kind of try to get that working. Whether it's duos, whether give him more carries. But the biggest takeaway out of this game isn't even yards per carry. It isn't even carries. It isn't even receptions, which he's a big part of the passing game, and I actually really like that. It's holding on to the ball. Zero fumbles, 2 starts, zero fumbles. Guys, I like Devin Singletary. Tyrone Tracy needs to start moving forward. It can be a split backfield, 50-50, 60-40, something like that. But I think Tyrone Tracy kind of has proven that once he starts getting the ball and getting in the flow of the game, I think he needs those carries to kind of get in the flow of the game. Kind of like Wayne Gallman. Remember Wayne Gallman? That's how he was. He wasn't a guy that could take 5 carries and be successful. He really needed that kind of starting role with the Giants and 5, 6, 7 carries. And then he kind of like starts getting into his own, gets the feel of the game, gets kind of lathered up a little bit. That's kind of how I feel Tyrone Tracy may be as well. Get him the ball in space as well in the passing game, and he makes people miss. He makes things happen, and I love it. Pardon my French. He needs to be the starting quarterback, running back moving forward. And really, in my mind, there's not a doubt on that. I'm okay with a 50-50 split or a 60-40 split, but I really wish it wouldn't be that. I think that you need to give Tyrone Tracy the ball, let him be the main guy carrying the ball, and let him get in a flow and keep the offense kind of moving on point and everything as far as that's concerned. Defensively, we'll jump over there next. The scheme was great. Shane Bowen, hats off. I don't have a head on, but hat off. Defense was awesome. Brian Burns was playing all over the place, making play after play after play. Really kind of what you wanted to see out of him. Azeez Ojulari, like I said, probably should have had like 4 sacks. He was that dominant as well. Unfortunately, towards the end of the game, you didn't see it quite as much, but I thought the defense played great. Defensive line, edge guys, obviously Dex had a sack. He now has 7 sacks. He was kind of quiet, but I think he was getting doubled a lot. Even that sack was kind of more of like a covered sack, but you could see him kind of fighting off the double team and kind of getting outside and then going and getting the sack. Huge sack at the time too. Damn, how did we lose this game? Ugh, it's so fucking annoying. But yeah, I thought they played really well. Bobby Okereke seemed to be around the ball a lot. I really wonder if on that Joe Burrow long run for a touchdown, if Isaiah Simmons was kind of in zone there and just got lost. I'm not entirely sure on that. I meant to kind of focus in on that and just got caught up in kind of some other things. But the defense played well. Next shout out kind of with the defense as well is dude, Cordell Flott. Hell yeah, man. Good job. Not pretty in the sense that they probably were rolling coverage a lot to him, bracketing Jamar Chase, but he still held up on Jamar Chase. He played really well in this game, made some good tackles here and there as well. Deonte Banks played T. Higgins pretty well, I think, too. Not perfect. You had some missed tackles and he was on his back a little bit going for a ride. But T. Higgins is just a beast. I actually kind of gained a little bit more respect for him in this game. I think the guy that was on the preview pod, Scott, obviously mentioned that T. Higgins is a push-off artist. That's what he does. And that's always been something frustrating for me. But I think he kind of showed gave me some reasons to throw a little bit more respect his way. I think he's just a beast. He's a good player. And if the Bengals don't re-sign him, and that's going to be a big mistake, I think, for them. But defense, secondary, Tyler Nubin, Drew Phillips. Drew Phillips needs to be on the field more. To take Isaiah Simmons snaps. You hate to do it, but Drew Phillips needs to be a guy that's on the field 80-90% of the snaps. I think he just flies all over the place. He makes good tackles. A guy that just he's making plays anytime he's on the field. He's making plays. This rookie class also, a little side note here, looking phenomenal. I really like what I'm seeing here out of this class. We'll end that there. I'm not overly that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the freaking loss here. But the defense, you balled out, and I'm sorry. It really was a shame that we couldn't win this game for you. I like what Brian Burns said after the fact, that if we want to be an elite defense, we got to make more plays. Pinnock, you got to pick that dang ball up here and give the offense a chance to try to win the ball, win the game. That ball was laying on the ground, man, in your hands. what could have been if he picked that ball up. Guys, that's all I got for today. I think just one little recap, and this is where I think we're at this point, guys. I think it's time. Daniel Jones, bye, buddy. See ya. I think it's time to either let Tommy cook. I don't know if you can see this here. Let Tommy cook. Shout out to license plate guy Joe. Or we need to let Drew Lock dial in. I think that's where we're at. Officially done with letting Danny dine. That's all I got for you guys today. Giants fans, NFL fans, anyone else that's here, Bengals fans. We'll see you probably Thursday or Friday to preview the Philadelphia Eagles game. That's all I got, guys. Let's go Big Blue.